Hey everyone, welcome to Amanda's Book Corner. I'm Amanda, and this is my review of Her Country Gentleman by Sian Ann Bessey, Sarah M. Eden, and Rebecca Connolly. This is a first in the Timeless Georgian Collection series, and it comprises 3 different short stories. Her Country Gentleman came out 1 month ago in March, and I listened to an audiobook version of it, narrated by Bretton. Also, I want to give a special thanks to Laurel Ann Nattress and Austenprose and the publishers for providing me with a review copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. Thank you very much. So the 3 short stories in this collection have 4 things in common. From the title, Her Country Gentleman, you can surmise that all 3 of the stories have to do with these women finding a man in the countryside, as opposed to in London. Secondly, from the series title, which is Timeless Georgian Collection, you can tell that they're all set in the Georgian era, which runs from about 1714 into the early 1800s, about 1830. In this case, they're set in the late 1700s. Now the third thing, which I was not anticipating but I found charming, is that all 3 of the stories have to do with sheep in some way or another. Yes, there are sheep and lambs throughout these stories, which I just found very charming because I almost never see sheep in stories. Fourthly, and this one I hope it's not too much of a spoiler, but the 4th thing is that all 3 of them do have a little bit of a mistaken or misunderstood identity with the men involved, which I thought was pretty fun and kind of funny in some ways. The first story is called Spring at Tribley Hall by Sian Ann Bessey. It takes place in spring 1775, and it starts when Charlotte, who is a young lady, she and her grandmother arrange to go to the countryside to visit her grandmother's friend. While they're there, Charlotte meets a young man named William Cheston, who is the Baron, although she doesn't quite realize it's him when she meets him. It's actually a pretty funny meet-cute involving puppies and mud, and her mistaking this Baron for a farmhand. Of course, it's not long before she figures out his real identity. In addition to these 2 meeting each other, there's also a bit of a mystery afoot. The sheep on the Baron's land are going missing, and it seems that someone is stealing the sheep in the dead of night, and he's not sure who's doing it and why. While William is tied up with his sheep, it's lambing season, the sheep are going missing, he's also getting to know Charlotte, and they're forming a connection, and it's not long before she becomes involved in helping him solve this whole sheep mystery. So I thought this was a really cute story. It's definitely unlike other romances that I've read, especially historical romances. I haven't really read any romance mystery kind of combination genre books before, although I did really enjoy this one, so I think I might need to go check out some more of those ones. The bulk of the story only spans a few days, and so it's not the kind of romance where you're expecting them to fall in love and get married, because it's just not quite enough time for that. But I did think it was a really cute setup in how these 2 meet each other, connect with each other, kind of bond over helping the sheep and the lambs, and solving this mystery that is impacting William Cheston's land and the sheep that he cares for. This is a kind of romance that felt like a very cute beginning and the beginning of a love story, and I just thought it was really charming and sweet. So I give this particular story 4 out of 5 stars. The next story is called Love of My Heart by Sarah M. Eden. Now I will say that out of the 3, this is probably my favorite, so I might get a little bit excited here. It starts off in London in 1790, and it focuses on these 2 sisters, Cordelia and Seraphina. Cordelia, the older one, is a little bit overdue for her first season, and she's hoping that her parents will let her have her first season this year. But imagine her surprise when her parents invite them both in and tell her some bad news. They have completely run out of money, and they need to move out of London to a much cheaper place to live. They end up going to Scotland, somewhere a little bit outside of Edinburgh. This one might be one of my favorite meet-cutes I've seen in any romance books, but when Cordelia and her sister first arrive, they go outside to play a game, and right when Cordelia is swinging back her racket, she whacks this guy right in the face. His nose starts bleeding, they're afraid that she might have broken his nose, and it's not exactly a very nice way for the 2 of them to meet. She apologizes, although he's pretty annoyed about how she just smacked him in the face. So that's how they meet. His name is Sebastian. He introduces himself as Sebastian of the Home Farm, although there's a little bit more to his identity than he's really letting on. His true identity and the reason behind why he's hiding it is a little bit of a mystery. Not a mystery, but it's kind of kept hidden for most of the book. But there are reasons behind his deception here. But it's a really cute story, and after that first kind of negative encounter, the 2 of them do eventually start to get to know each other, and they develop a sort of bond with each other. They spend a lot of time together as much as they can. Sebastian also has a little lamb that he's caring for that follows him around. The lamb is an orphan. So again, there's the sheep. It's a very cute lamb and I love it. Cordelia is really passionate about painting, and although her parents do not really approve of this, I don't know why, but they're against it for some reason. But Sebastian is really into it, and he encourages it and invites her to different places around her new land where she lives that are really great places for painting nice pictures. After several weeks there, Cordelia's parents decide to go to Edinburgh with the laird of the Scottish area where they are. And while they're gone, she and Sebastian get to know each other even more, and it's very clear that they're starting to fall in love with each other. It's very sweet and cute. But disaster strikes when her parents return, and they do not approve of what has been going on while they've been away. So I'm going to stop there. I don't want to spoil anything else, but I thought this book was so delightful. I loved the slow sweetness of them falling in love with each other over the course of several weeks or even months. Not sure exactly how long it is. I really love the reveal of Sebastian's full identity and how that truth eventually comes out, because of course it does have to come out at some point. I can't tell you about that scene, but that scene is my favorite. More so than the previous story, which felt like a nice, sweet beginning, this one felt like a very complete love story, and it had the full arc that I was hoping for. And although it is a short story, or probably a novella in length really, although it isn't a full-length novel, it did feel fully satisfying for me. So I gave this one 5 stars, and it was my favorite of the 3. The final story is called Miss Smith Goes to Wiltshire by Rebecca Connolly. In this one, we meet young Martha Smith, who has just had her first season, and she's rejected some suitors, and her mother is not pleased. So her mother sends her off to the countryside to live with a relative for 6 weeks. Basically, she wants to get it out of Martha's head that she can fall in love, and to show her why falling in love is a bad and dangerous thing to do, she wants her to live with this family member who did marry for love and show her how terrible that person's life is because they are not wealthy, they live in the countryside, and of course it just has to be terrible. But the joke is on her mom. While Martha is in the countryside, she really takes to the different people there. She makes friends. She loves the nature and the countryside and the sheep. See, I told you there are sheep everywhere. And eventually she meets this nice young man named Benjamin, who happens to be the new earl of the castle there. He doesn't tell her right away that that's who he is. He just introduces himself as Benjamin. So I told you, they don't all reveal who they are right away. But she finds out, and eventually they start to form a connection with each other. They start to really like each other. But it can't last because Martha will only be there for 6 weeks, and those 6 weeks are rapidly disappearing. And it's not long before Mom calls her back to finally accept a proposal from a titled man. Like the previous story, this one had the sweetness of watching these 2 people get to know each other slowly and falling in love, and it had that kind of full arc that I was talking about where it feels like it has a satisfying end and a complete end. But it did feel like it kind of went over all of that a little bit faster than the other one did. The previous one did kind of dive into the characters, getting to know each other more, whereas this one I think had a little bit more of other elements going on in it, so it didn't feel quite as deeply done. But regardless, it was a cute story, and I really liked how different Martha and Benjamin are, and how he's really struggling with his new estate that he's just inherited that's not in good condition, and he doesn't have the money or the resources to really get it up to speed. But with some hard work and determination, he's hoping that he can get it into a good place very soon. This one probably felt the lightest to me in a certain way, but I thought it was really delightful too, so I gave it 4 stars. So all 3 of these stories were really delightful. I really enjoyed each one of them. They all had a certain lightness to them, but they all were satisfying, and I felt connected with the characters. And even with the condensed format, I thought they all felt very complete and satisfying and just adorable. I also really love the audiobook format of this one. Kim Bretton does the narration of all 3 stories. She does a good job with differentiating between the different characters' voices, so it was always very clear to me who was talking based on the timbre of the voice and how low or high it was, and sometimes even had a little bit more of a raspiness to the voice, which also helped to differentiate between them. It was very pleasant to listen to, and I think that her narration really made me enjoy the stories that much more, and I think it also kept me more firmly into the time that the books are set in. And so for me, it was a really excellent way to engage with the story, and I'm really happy I listened to the audiobook as opposed to reading the traditional format. And although the 3 stories were united in the 4 key elements that I mentioned, despite having the same approximate time setting and all being set in the countryside and having sheep and misidentified men, I did really like that the 3 did feel distinct enough that I didn't ever feel like any of the 3 were too similar to the others, and so it was very easy for me to keep the 3 stories separated from each other. So I really loved Her Country Gentleman. I thought it was a delightful collection of short stories. I gave it 4.5 stars. Also, this is the first in the Timeless Georgian Collection series, and so I hope that there will be more books in the series. If there are, I will definitely be reading those as well, so stay tuned for those reviews. So I hope you enjoyed this book review video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And to make sure you don't miss any more of my videos, please ring the bell to get all my notifications. I put out about 2 to 3 book review videos like this one every week, as well as one to do other videos like vlogs and listicles. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!